So it looks like we are in section 10.3 looking at ellipses. And we're going to have two types of ellipses. We're going to have some with a horizontal major axis, in which case the ellipse is stretched out horizontally in a long way. This would be a horizontal situation. And also a vertical major axis. That would be when your ellipse is stretched out long ways in the vertical direction. So horizontal versus vertical. So first we want to look at those with a horizontal major axis. So the ellipse with center h, k, foci h plus c, k, h minus c, k, vertices h plus a, k, h minus a, k, h, k plus b, h, k minus b, with major axis y equals k has the following equation. And this is the equation right here, x minus h, comma. So x minus h, quantity squared over a squared, plus y minus k, quantity squared, equals b squared equals 1. And here your c squared, that value of c is going to be important for determining the foci. C squared is a squared minus b squared. That would be the larger square minus the smaller square in this case. We know a is going to be greater than b in this case. So when you're looking at these numbers on bottom, here this is the a, and here this is the b. So when you have a horizontally stretched out ellipse, horizontal major axis, the a is going to be bigger than the b. So yeah, keep that in mind, that a is bigger than b here when you have a stretched out, horizontally stretched out dude. Now, what about the ellipses with vertical major axes? Well, in this case, it's going to be almost the same thing, except here b is going to be bigger than a. So b is the number that goes, b is associated with the y, right? You have a b squared underneath the y minus k squared, and a is going to be associated with the number underneath the x situation. So you got x minus h squared, and underneath you got a squared. So in this case, b is bigger than a. And in this case, when you're finding your c at some point, finding your c for your foci, you're going to have to use the equation c squared equals b squared minus a squared. Why b squared minus a squared? Well, remember, b is bigger, so b squared is going to be bigger than a squared. So in order to get a positive number, you have to take the larger b squared minus the smaller a squared. So these are very similar, these two types, except the b is going to be bigger than the a for the vertically stretched out one. For the horizontally stretched out one, the a is going to be bigger than the b. Otherwise, the process is pretty much the same. So let's look at this first problem here. Find the center of the ellipse, find the vertices for the ellipse, find the foci of the ellipse, and then graph the ellipse. So first we want to get this in kind of standard form. So I'll have, let's see, what colors am I using? I'm using green, I guess. X minus blank squared plus y minus blank squared over blank squared over blank squared equals 1. It's going to be my standard form for ellipse. So first things first, I need to put something into the blank here after the x minus, and something in here after the y minus. So what do I put there? I put a 0, right? X minus 0 squared is the same thing as x squared. And y minus 0, I got to put in a 0 after the y minus. Y minus 0 squared is the same thing as y squared. Then on bottom, we're going to have our, what number here do I have to square to get 4? I have to square the number 2. And what number do I have to square underneath the y situation to get what's underneath y squared? Well, what is underneath y squared? Well, you don't see it here, but there's actually a 1 under there. Underneath y squared, there's 1, so I have to square 1. So here my a is the 2, and my b is the 1 right there. So already I can see that my A is bigger than my B, right? So I'm going to have a horizontally stretched out horizontal transverse axis. All right, so let's start identifying things. Let's start with the center. So part A of this problem, finding the center. The center, we call that H comma K. But that'll be 0, that's the H, 0, that's the K. So 0, 0. Okay, so what do we gotta do next? Well, I like to start graphing here. So where am I gonna graph? I'm gonna graph up in here, part T. It's gonna be my y-axis. This is gonna be my x-axis. So I got the center, which is at 0, 0. That's the center of the ellipse. Then I want to find vertices. So I'm going to use my A value. Where's my A value? My A value is 2. Remember, A is associated with the x. So in the x direction from the center, I'm going to go 1, 2, and plot a point. I'm going to go to the left from the center, 1, 2, I'm going to plot a point. So here I got the point, let's see, 2, 0, and negative 2, 0. And these are two of my vertices. All right. Then we got our B value. Our B value, I'm putting a box around that one. That's equal to 1. That is associated with the y. So we're going to go from the center. Let's go up 1, plot a point, and then let's go back to the center, down 1, plot a point. Here you got your 4 vertices. That top one above the center, that was what? 0, 1. And the one underneath the center is 0, negative 1. So now we're going to draw an ellipse connecting those. An ellipse is like a circle, but it's not stretched out along one of the axes. In this case, you can see it's stretched out along the x-axis. It's longer along the x-axis, and that's because the A, which was 2, is bigger than the B, which was 1. There's a picture of my ellipse. Okay, so what did we just do? We just did the vertices, right? We got to do the vertices. So let's write down the vertices. So what do we have? We have negative 2, 0. We have 2, 0. Now these are called my major. I'm going to label those. You don't have to label these, but these are my major vertices. Why? Because they're along the major axis, the long side, or where it's stretched out. And then I got what? 0, 1. It's on the north, and 0, negative 1. That's on the south side. These are my minor vertices. They're actually on what's called the minor axis. Okay. C. For C, we got to find foci. Now to find foci, you got to find this value called C. So remember, C squared is, you're going to take A squared minus B squared. So remember, A squared was 4 and B squared was 1. So C squared is going to be basically 4 minus 1, which is 3. So C squared is equal to 3, and I take the square root of that. What is the square root of 3? I think the square root of 3 is about 1.73. So I'm going to head back to my center. Where's my center? It's the yellow dot right there. And I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to the right because this is along the major axis, 1.73, so it's about here. And I go back to the center, and then to the left, 1.73, that's about there. So there are my foci. My first focus, F1, is about negative 1.73, 0. It's the one on the left. And the one on the right, F2 is about positive 1.73, 0. Okay. And part D, we had to graph it. Okay, I've already graphed it. So we're done. We're completely done with this first ellipse. Let's do another ellipse. Here I have x squared, what is it, over 25 plus y squared over 64 equals 1. So if we rewrite this in standard form, it's what? X minus blank squared over blank squared plus y minus blank squared over blank squared equals 1. All right. So I'm going to have a 0 after the x minus, and after the y minus, I'm going to have a 0. And underneath the x stuff, something squared to get 25. 5 squared, right? And under the y stuff, something squared to get 64. That's going to be 8. Here you can see my h is 0. My k is 0. My a is 5. My b is 8. Because b is bigger than a, this is going to be a vertical situation, vertical transverse axis. Just noting that. All right, so let's do the center. So the center is the HK. It would be 0, 0. Let's do next the vertices. Before I do the vertices, I'm just going to get straight to my graphing. Make enough spaces here. Okay, y-axis and x-axis. I think I got it all. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put a center of 0, 0 right here. Now, I'm going to use the A. The A is going to be used to determine additional points. Do I have enough space? Actually, I don't have enough space. I don't have enough space. That is a shame. Okay, I'll have to make these. I'll have to rescale this. I'll say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, I think I have enough space now. All right, so going back, plotting the center at 0, 0. Okay. Now to find my vertices, I am going to use, first of all, A. A is associated with X, so it's horizontal. So I'm going to go from the center 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. There's one of my vertices, 5, 0. Then back to the center, 5 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be negative 5, 0. Then I use my B to determine my vertical vertices. So that's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That'd be 0, 8. Then back to the center and down 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. 0, negative 8. And we're going to connect these. And we can see that this is vertically stretched out as we talked about because B is bigger than A. So let's write our vertices down. What are they? Negative 5, 0. 5, 0. These are minor vertices, right? These are minor because They're along the shorter axis. And the major vertices are 0, 8. I can get that to right. And 0, minus 8. Major vertices, because they're along the longer axis. Okay, next thing to do is find the foci. So to find the foci, we have to find a value called c. So remember, c squared is, in this case, going to be b squared minus a squared, right? You take your larger square minus your smaller square. You're taking 64 minus 25. 64, if I can spell that. Let me use blue. 64 minus 25, and what is that exactly? 64 minus 25. Scratching my head a bit. I think it's 39, yeah. C squared 39, I gotta take the square root of 39. I'm gonna estimate that to do decimal places, 6.24. So, to find my foci, I'm gonna be going along the vertical axis from the center, 6.24, since we're vertically oriented. The vertical transverse axis. So back to the center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.24. There's one of my foci, and then back to the center, 1, 2, 6.24. There's my second focus. So I got what? 0, 6.24. Okay, that's F1. Let me write that. F1. That's about 0, 6.24. And F2 is about 0, negative 6.24. Good. So that's everything. Our vertices, our center, which are 0, 0, and our foci.